Hey again, everyone. Fall in for another episode of Tactical Plastic Report, where I talk about Army Men, a game of tactical plastic. It's been a little while since I've done an update for this particular show, and I have been working on some stuff behind the scenes for Army Men. But this week, I wanted to talk about something that I don't really think I've covered very much. I may have mentioned it in the past, but it is something that I think if you like this game, if you're thinking about checking it out, you should really grab a copy of, because it is one of the supplements I'm proudest of and one of the ideas that I think really goes well with the last episode we did of this show. Now, for folks who haven't dug back through the archive, you haven't watched every episode yet, last show I talked about the mechanics, the solutions that I made using the D&D 5e chassis to really change things up and to alter some of what people are used to seeing when they play a game based on this system. And one of the big things I talked about was how players don't get treasure in this game. It's one of those things we're just used to in RPGs of, you fight the monsters, you slay the dragon, you get the horde, you go through the loot, and you keep getting better and better equipment, and that's part of how you deal with the challenge. Well, Army Men, being a game where you all are part of the armed forces, has a requisition system. You are able to requisition the equipment you need for whatever mission it is you're going on, and that is part of how the Game Master sets challenge. If they want this to be a particularly difficult mission, they'll give you standard issue equipment, they'll give you a low level of ammunition, they'll make you get creative with your solutions. If they want it to be easier, if they want it to be more freewheeling and fun, they'll give you an entire box of hand grenades, a rocket launcher, and a tank and say, go to town. But that does bring the question of, how do you keep players attached to things? How do you reward them if at the end of every mission they just bring their equipment back and hand it over to the supply sergeant and that's that? Well, this is where I introduce the medals system, as in Army Men Medals of Honor. The way that this system works is that I give 25 sample medals, and the way a medal works is that it gives you a particular mechanical bonus once you've gotten it, and it's usually something like you can re-roll a particular skill check once per mission, or you can start a mission with this or that ability active, or you get bonuses to certain skill checks if people see that medal and they recognize what it means. But the idea is that players, well, player characters at least, get medals when they have accomplished a certain number of things in the field in-game. And this sort of motivates players to take certain actions, to maybe be a little riskier, maybe be a little showboaty. And this is kind of the risk and reward of, if you do something particularly noteworthy in a mission, if you do something a certain number of times perhaps, you could get a medal from command once you get back, and once your report has been issued and they see what it is you did, you could get this to carry on through the rest of your career. And some of the medals are fairly simple. You have, ones where it feels, I won't lie, a little fetch questy. It's one of those of score a certain number of critical hits with a rifle over, field deployments. That, makes you an expert marksman. And you have others which are very specific and kind of require your game master to work with you on earning them. The one is the medal you get from United Polymeria. That's essentially how you become a 00 agent. Of, you need to complete a certain number of assassinations on behalf of the crown, and that's not a thing you can do without being issued those missions, so there's some back and forth on them. However, it's important to remember, if you do check out Medals of Honor, which should be linked in the video description below, that the medals listed, you get 5 for every country, and then another 5 for the political organization you're all part of anyway, of the Plastos Federation. Those are not all of the medals that exist. If I wanted to do something that exhaustive, it would have been a massive, massive book. But I wanted to introduce the system, introduce the idea, so that players and game masters could just internalize it, chew on it for a while, and then maybe make up some of their own medals, some of their own ideas, contribute their own history, whether it's an in-joke among players of, one person did something one time and now everyone's trying to top that last task. You could make a medal for that. If it's a thing that the dice are just constantly giving one player, natural ones, you could create a medal for someone who has epically failed a task a certain number of times, just for the ability to give that player, a reroll when they hit that one at a critical moment. The system is meant to be flexible. It's meant to be something that players and game masters can just take and do whatever they want with it. They can make it silly, you can make it serious. Just like the rest of Army Men, you detail your experience and how much ratio of ridiculous to badass you want it to be. However, before I end this relatively short update, as I do have a lot of things to get back to, but I don't want to keep everybody in the dark as to what I'm doing. There is one other thing that I introduced in Medals of Honor that kind of slipped through the cracks and a lot of folks didn't really pick up on it, which is I introduced a new weapon description. Because for Acrylica, there is a unique medal which goes to those who have taken experimental weapons out into the field and survived testing them. And the experimental category is kind of my very soft introduction for sci-fi technology. This is where we get things like the lightning rifle, which is the weapon introduced at the back of this particular game. And it's something I want to expand on more, but I haven't really gotten the traction from the audience, from players, to go forward with it. And so it's something I wanted to highlight a little bit. If you are one of those players or one of those game masters who really wanted to see Army Men introduce a lot of extra weapons, if you wanted to see it look more like Starship Troopers or Warhammer 40k and give you those options for fighting giant insects with laser rifles and sound grenades and all those interesting features, pick up a copy of this. It introduces the template for creating experimental weapons, and if more folks actually grab this book and make comments on that, leave reviews about it, it will give me the ability to go to my publisher and then be like, hey, this has gotten really popular. We should really expand on this. I have an idea for a new supplement. So that's all I have for this week. It's relatively short and sweet, just explaining a supplement I made for the game that if I had to pick one, aside from the one that gives you more monsters to use, this is one I would really recommend, because the medal system, in my opinion, is very unique, and it's something you don't really get a chance to do with other games, certainly not as part of the meta. So I recommend go take a look at it. If you like it, grab it. If you have it, leave a comment below in the comments and tell everybody else, how have you used it? Have you only used the medal suggestions that I made? Has your table made their own? Is there something you think was lacking that really should have been put in there? I am all ears. I am always happy to do more supplements, expanding on the world, giving you more lore, more stuff to play with. But I need to hear from you all as to what you want to see and what is really going to be received well, because rolling the dice and taking a gamble is, well, not something I can always do with the limited amount of time that I have to work on this particular property. But as always, if there's a particular part of Army Men you want to see me talk about more, whether it's the process, whether it's the game, whether it's more of the world lore, let me know that in the comments as well, and make sure you like, share, subscribe, all of those good things to keep the channel going and keep the show popular. But until next time, this has been Tactical Plastic Report. Fall out. Have a good day gaming, everybody.